Hello and a very warm good afternoon. You're watching News9. I'm Shweta Kothari. We're bringing you stories from the world of business, policy and economy. First up, we'll begin with markets. Markets, Suyash Maheshwari sitting to my left here,
Hi,
ended
Shweta.
in red on end of this Monday morning.
Yes, Shweta. So, after opening in the red today, which is Monday morning, bulls made a failed attempt to, pull the markets higher. However, selling bears kept the selling pressure high on the street on Monday, and as a result, Sensex snapped its 11-day winning streak, which is the best run the Sensex has recorded since October of last year. Now, at close on Monday, Sensex was down about 240 points or 0.36% and closed just shy of the 67,600 mark. Nifty was also down by about 0.3% on Monday and closed about 20,133 levels, below the support of 20,150 levels. Now, mid cap and the small cap indices also, Shweta, were trading in the red on Monday. They were down about 0.5% each, and India VIX, which is a volatility index, also saw a decline of about 0.61% and comfortably sits below the 12 mark, which suggests that the volatility has come down after today's trade. Now let's also quickly move on to the gainers and losers, the top performing sectors in Monday's trade. Now, as you can see, Nifty Auto was among the best performer on Monday. The index was up about 0.84%. FMCG pack also rallied, was up about 0.6%. PSU Bank, Shweta, continued its outperformance and in Monday's trade was a top performing sector. The index was up about 3.39%. On the other side, the metal pack, media and realty indices fell 1% on Monday. Now, if we can also move to the gainers and losers, Power Grid Corporation, Shweta, was a top gainer on Monday, and the stock gained about 3%. And the stock has been on a bit of a run up. Last week it surged to a 52-week high after it bagged a transmission project from Rajasthan. It took a bit of a breather on Friday, but we have seen the uptrend resume from Monday onwards. Now, Titan was another stock which has been actually rallying for the past month or so. The stock has rallied about 7% in the past month and has outperformed the Nifty pack. The stock was up about 2.66%. There was no news trigger, but perhaps investors are looking for increased demand for jewelry heading into the festive season and the wedding season. Other gainers were HDFC Life, which was up about 2.43%. Mahindra & Mahindra continued to rally for the second consecutive session. The stock gained about 2.26%. Now, this is on the back of HSBC re-rating the stock from neutral to buy and raising the target price to about 1800. Which implies an upside of about 10% from the current levels. BPCL was also up about 2.26%. It was unfazed by the windfall tax, which was increased on crude oil from 6,700 per ton to 10,000 rupees per ton. Now, among the losers was Hindalco. Hindalco stock fell about 2.19% today after CEO Nilesh Kaul flagged concerns about labor shortages at the Fast Market Aluminium Conference in Barcelona. HDFC Bank, Adani Post, Dr. Reddy's, Bharti Airtel also were among the blue chip stocks that fell in Monday's trade.
All right, those of course are top gainers and losers. Kranti Bhatini of Wealth Mill Securities joining us on the show at this point. Kranti, thanks very much for taking time out. I want to first begin by asking you, what are you making of markets this afternoon at the close of Monday's trading session? Are we heading towards a consolidation?
Yes, Shweta, given the kind of the current surge in the market from last couple of days and today's some kind of profit booking, we can expect some kind of consolidation, but we need to also consider today major parts of India is a holiday. Markets are in a holiday mode right now. So ahead of the holiday, we can see some kind of profit booking. But markets are trending at a very strong note. Today is some kind of profit booking, but the fundamental, the setup and the technical setup, whereas and the fundamental setup of the market is currently very strong at this point of time. So nothing to worry. It is just one of the just a kind of profit booking kind of day. Uh, and we can see some kind of positive momentum that's getting sustained. We need to see Nifty sustaining above 19,800. That's where we need to see some kind of concern. As long as Nifty is above that level, it's in a positive zone at this point of time. Shweta, just for one observation right now, despite of one hand, we can see some kind of profit booking, some kind of the factor that is called the two-digit factor we can see in the market right now. Investors are becoming frenzy. The stocks which are on two digits, they have been flying at this point of time. That's where the cause of concern. Investors need to make the due diligence before taking any such positions. If at all it's a trading positions, no problem. But if the stocks are not supported by fundamentals and if the stocks are keep on flying, that's where one need to be cautious in this market rally.
Now, Kranti, do you expect the subdued movement in the market to continue, especially because the FOMC will come out with its policy, decision on September 20th?
So yes, we witnessed a strong momentum in Indian markets and markets sustaining above 20,000 and giving a phenomenal gains in the past fortnight. What we witnessed. So market can get into a small period of consolidation phase at this point of time. In fact, that's good for the market also. We can't expect the market to keep on rise on a vertical note. What making this market to sustain at this point of time is we need to see the strong gush of liquidity in the market. Markets are supported by both retail, domestic institutional investors, especially the PMS mutual fund, and the finally foreign portfolio investors. They have been buying on some days. So what we are seeing is the strong liquidity gush that's making the market to sustain above these levels, and also the positive commentary. The one hand, cool off of inflation. These are the factors helping the market to sustain at these levels.
All right. Yes.
Kranti, also I just wanted to get your take on the stock of oil companies. Now, over the weekend we saw that government has hiked the windfall tax on crude oil from 6,700 per ton to about 10,000. Regardless of that, most oil like BPCL was among the top gainers today. ONGC pretty much traded flat throughout the session. So, what sort of an impact will you see for the oil companies?
Two things, Suyash. One hand, we are at $90 per barrel right now. How far this range of the oil price can be sustained at this point of time, we need to see. One is a cause of concern. The other way is whenever the oil comes to these kind of $90 per range, what we can see is some kind of action in the global trade, and also the global momentum is concerned, the global growth is concerned, can get into a positive trend. That gives a neutral moment. One hand the positive, the other hand the negative. It gets neutral. Coming to the windfall tax imposing on these oil marketing companies and refiners, it can impact the earnings in a medium to short term basis. We need to wait and watch how the government are going to take the steps going ahead. We need to wait and watch at this point of time. As per the oil marketing companies are concerned, right now the gush of liquidity, as we discussed about the liquidity that's coming into the market, this is getting channelized into the stocks which looks attractive in the medium to short term. So that's where the money is flowing and making those stocks, despite of some kind of negative news that's coming, that's absorbing, the news is getting absorbed by the liquidity and the attractive valuations of these stocks in the medium to short term.
Okay. How worried are you with Brent crude over $93 a barrel? We were discussing this throughout the week, last week, to understand what imminent impact will be on India. Well, for consumers to begin with, there doesn't look like there's going to be any immediate impact to begin with. But in the long run, over the course of next 5 to 6 months, this is going to play up in a major way, not just for inflation, but also for consumption, for FMCG products, for all in all. A lot is going to get expensive in 5 to 6 months if the upward movement continues.
Yeah, Shweta, you are absolutely correct. If the oil is going to rally, okay, it's definitely going to have impact on the inflation, and also it's one of the major key raw material for many of the sectors. It can be paint, it can be, in fact, it's used in kind of FMCG products. Even toothpaste also have some kind of extraction that comes from crude oil. So it's a key factor for India. It's a linchpin for economy like India. So we need to wait and watch whether the level is the top up, or it's going to consolidate, or it can take a drift. We have news like the FOMC meeting. So all these things are lined up. But for a longer term basis, I'm quite bearish with respect to the crude oil is concerned. But in a medium to short term, the demand and supply places always the key role. I don't think so. Oil going above $100. Yeah, it's not a issue at this point of time. I'm going to see some kind of oil taking a U-turn from this level or getting into a long consolidation zone, Shweta. But given the point, as you rightly mentioned, if the oil goes above from this level, it's going to be a key cause of concern for the markets going ahead, definitely.
Okay,
We can't ignore the oil.
right.
For a country.
Interesting. You said you don't see it touching $100 a barrel. We had other experts on the show last week who said it will touch $100 anytime now. What is the comfort zone for crude, especially for India? Because India is looking to buy crude at 85, in fact 75 to $85 a barrel. Do you see it coming back to that price zone, price range anytime soon?
We can expect the price to come to the level of 80, 85 to 90, that zone we can expect, Shweta. I'm not quite bullish with respect to the oil is concerned at this point of time, which is a good news for the country like India.
Okay. And as far as inventories is concerned and future contracts is concerned, do Indian oil companies have enough so as to not pass on the burden to consumers, people like you and me? Do we have to worry anytime soon for filling up our fuel tanks?
Shweta, we are getting nearer to the election season. I don't think so. The government is going to take tinkering with respect to the oil prices are concerned at this point of time. So, probably it is the market mechanism, and the government is going to try to absorb or throw the burden on the oil marketing company at this point of time. I don't think so. At this point of time, we can't afford the crude oil or the retail oil prices to go up significantly from this point of time.
Okay, so it's
there were under recoveries. There were under recoveries that can neutralize the oil marketing companies' earnings at this point of time. Of course, it's going to add some pressure on the oil marketing companies in the medium to short term.
Okay, pressure to oil marketing companies, of course, to government's budget as well. So the price is likely to remain stable, I suppose, till May or June of next year, which is when perhaps either this government will continue or this government will go away. But anyhow, elections will be over by then.
Kranti, I also wanted to touch upon the PSU bank rally. Now we have been talking about this time and again. Earlier, like it was on the back of several government reforms such as consolidation of smaller banks into larger banks, the asset quality of the banks improving, the credit growth also going up. Now, what are the fresh triggers? Why are we seeing a 2%, 3%, 4% rally on a day-on-day basis in PSU bank counters?
Shuyash, one thing is what we are witnessing is the credit growth is quite strong. The rural economy is quite strong at this point of time. The monsoon, in fact, it started very well and taken a pause in the month of August, but it's gradually progressing very well across the India in the month of September as per the data is concerned. So we can expect the credit growth to continue at the double digit, and rural with respect to the rural consumption is concerned is going to be quite strong. That's where the PSU banks come into limelight, and also the government's commentary with respect to the resilience with respect to the management quality is concerned. There is a wide gap in the valuation gap between the private sector banks and public sector banks on a longer term basis. So the gap is trying to get narrowed at this point of time with the strength of the economy and also the commentary that's coming from the various agencies from the government. So we can see some kind of buying interest is getting emerged from retail investors also with respect to the public sector undertakings are concerned, public sector banks are concerned, undertakings especially public sector banks are concerned in the medium to short term.
Now, Kranti, any stocks that are looking attractive to you in the PSU bank basket? Because I was just looking at the returns, you know, in India Overseas Bank in FY24 has surged about 180%. Bank of Maharashtra has surged about 186%. Punjab and Sindh Bank has almost tripled. Punjab National Bank has almost doubled. So most of these stocks have turned, it seems like multi-baggers in just FY24. Any stock that is looking attractive to you at this point in time?
So as you might have missed, UCO Bank has also doubled. Okay,
Yeah.
so there is a broad rally in the PSU stocks, PSU banks are concerned. But our focus at Wealth Mill Securities, we are continuously focused on the large cap banks like Canara Bank and Bank of Baroda at this point of time. Of course, there is some kind of buying interest is emerging emerging at the bottom of the pyramid. As I mentioned, there is a two-digit factor is playing in the market. The stocks which are at the two digits, they have been flying at this point of time. So as Warren Buffett always rightly says, in the shorter term, markets are a voting machine. In the longer term, they are the weighing machines. So the earnings are ultimately going to determine the prices, because always stock prices in a longer term, they always weigh the strength of the economy, and always stock prices are slave to the earnings.
Okay. All right. You know, let's also quickly move on to a major IPO that we are tracking that is going to be coming up soon by the way of JSW Infrastructure. Suyash, take us through what's going to be on offer.
Yes, Shweta. So the 2,800 crore public issue from the JSW group is all set to come out on September 29th. Now the price band for the issue has been set at 113 to 119 per equity share. Now, if you talk about the issue itself, Shweta, it will be a complete fresh issue. There will be no offer for sale. So basically, promoters are not selling any of their stake. New shares will be only issued. Now, also this will be JSW's first IPO in nearly 13 years. The last time they came out with an IPO was back in 2010 when they, you know, carved out their energy business, also known as JSW Energy. Now, JSW Infra will use the proceeds from the fresh issue to repay debt of about 880 crore, and the remaining amount will go into funding its capex requirement. Now, also, if we can, these are the important timelines. I'll just quickly run you through it, Shweta. So the IPO opens on September 25th. It closes on September 27th. The basis of allotment, which is the date, you know, on which who gets how many shares will be finalized. So that will be on October 3rd. A day after that, refunds to the shareholders who are not allotted shares in the allotment process will get the refund on October 4th. The shares will be credited to the demat account of the shareholders on October 5th, and the likely or the tentative listing date for JSW Infra is October 6th. Now, if we can also quickly look at the financials of JSW Infra. Now, as you can see, assets have improved nearly like almost 30% from FY20 when it stood at about 7,191 crores to FY23 to the end of FY23 when they were about 9,450 crores. Now, revenue, Shweta, has jumped nearly 2.5 times from FY20 to FY23. In FY20, it was about 1,237 crores. As of FY23, it was 3,372 crore. Profit after tax has increased by a whopping 386% from 196.53 crores at the end of FY20 to about 749.5 crores. The company's net worth, Shweta, which is also the market capitalization of the company, has expanded by 60% in the same time period from 2,488 crore to 3,934 crore. Now, Kranti, how, like, this is the first offering from JSW Group in nearly 13 years. What's your opinion on the IPO?
Yes, Suyash, you rightly mentioned that, and given the points towards the JSW Infra is concerned. And last 6 months, we have not seen any kind of significant fundraising. All by and large, mid and small cap space has dominated the IPO market. And we have one marquee name like TVS in the last month, that also from a strong group. Now the turn is for JSW Infra, which have a strong pedigree, and the company and the group which is more focused with respect to the infrastructure, with respect to the metal sector is concerned, the strong players. Now coming to at this point of time, the pricing is good and also backed by strong marquee names at this point of time. And there is a buying interest with respect to JSW Group is concerned, because the group as a conglomerate, it performed very well in the past 10 years. And this is one of the group to observe in the next coming decade also, how it's going to pan out. They have been playing the cards consistently very well at this point of time.
Okay.
Investors with a longer term horizon, definitely they can subscribe for this IPO. The good point for this IPO is they're launching at a right time. When the story is just emerging, when the capex cycle is emerging, when the cycle is at an uptrend, the company is coming for the IPO. That's going to benefit, and that's going to attract the interest of both the institutional investors and the retail is concerned at this point of time. JSW Infra is concerned.
All right, sufficient buying interest around JSW Infra and the IPO that is now in works. Kranti, thank you so much for taking time out. Thank you for, taking time out of your busy schedule. I know you're traveling today, but thank you for being here once again on the show. But we're going to move on for now. India has its own satellite navigation system, and you can now access it on iPhone. The navigation with Indian constellation, also known as NavIC, NavIC, or whichever way you'd like to call it, is a satellite navigation system which is similar to GPS or the global positioning system developed by the US. India's own NavIC is developed by ISRO, the Indian Space Research Organization. The Indian government is now considering it making mandatory for smartphones that are launched in the country. Now, according to Minister of State for Electronics and IT, Rajiv Chandrasekhar, all 5G phones should now support NavIC by 1st of January 2025 and all the other smartphones by December of 2025. The government is planning to mandate chips embedded with NavIC for automotive industry. Now, Accord Software System, a local startup, has incorporated NavIC in the design of its integrated circuit in a very first attempt to do so by an Indian company. We are going to be speaking to the Chief Executive Officer of NavIC, but let me quickly get my colleague Krishna Kumar to come and join us for that very important story. Krishna, this is huge, and we've been looking at all these developments for the past couple of days now, since Friday to be particular. We were hoping to discuss this story and to discuss none other than Murli Krishna as Chief Executive Officer of Accord Softwares and Systems joining us on the show. Murli, thanks very much for taking time out. I think my first question to you would be, how significant is this? We are talking about competing with the likes of Russia, Japan and the US when it comes to our own global positioning systems.
Yeah, first of all, thanks for having me. See, it's a very significant step, mainly because for too long we were depending on the US GPS satellite constellation for our own navigation. And not only for military purpose, even some critical commercial segments require our own satellite constellation system. There are infrastructures which require very precise time, wherein any error in this time can cause a havoc. See, for example, power grid stations, you have things like stock market timings, then base station timings. All these things depend a lot on accuracy of timing that is obtained from GPS. In case, let us say, it gets degraded by with intention or without intention, it can create havoc. So having our own navigation system was very critical, and really, I think big thanks to ISRO for launching these satellites and maintaining this infrastructure, so that I think companies like us are ready to, let us say, go to the user and give the benefits of NavIC.
All right, and you know, perhaps my next question that automatically flows, and I think everybody who would be watching us would be thinking, how accurate is NavIC when compared to, let's say, GPS? I read somewhere this afternoon that a GPS will give you approximately 5 meters of, you know, accuracy. NavIC will give you 3 meters accuracy. Are we saying that this is a better perhaps technology when it comes to navigating on Indian roads? Are we looking to compete now with GPS and perhaps outdo them?
Especially because Google Maps, you know how we get confused on Indian roads with Google Maps sometimes, because it hasn't, you know, charted out our roads all that well. Can NavIC do that better?
Yeah, I think it's a sort of a question which cannot be answered in one sentence, because accuracy of any navigation system depends on several factors. One of them is signal strength. So if you have better signal strength from satellites, you'll get better accuracy. Another factor is generally the signals go through what is called as ionosphere. So if the ionosphere is not modeled properly, then you may not get better accuracy. And third thing is number of satellites. If you have more number of satellites in space, you are likely to get a better accuracy. So considering all these 3 things, NavIC, what we have seen is gives better signal strength than GPS right now for whatever the design that has been made. Second thing is, I think we are able to model the ionosphere in a better way than other systems. But the third thing is number of satellites. So if we have more number of satellites around India, then we are likely to get much better accuracy than a GPS. So I will not say that it is much better than GPS, but it is likely to give better than GPS when full constellation is in place. So if you have 11 or 7 or 11 satellites that ISRO is planning, when we have those many number of satellites, you are likely to get much better accuracy than GPS.
Right, from what I understand, I think, Shweta, ISRO is planning to up the number of satellites for NavIC from 7 to 12, if I'm not mistaken. Another thing, you know, I'd like to remind viewers at this stage is what happened during the Kargil war when the Indian government wanted to use GPS, you know, in that, you know, all-important battle that was unfolding, and we weren't given access at that stage. So we lost strategic advantage because of a particular piece of technology not offered to us. So it was about time that we developed our own, for our own strategic interests and our own security interests, to have our own global positioning systems. So you know, one is of course you know, competing it at it as a product in economic terms, but also there is strategic and security importance to this, to us having our own GPS.
Absolutely, to us having our own indigenously developed positioning system. Murli, I understand that there's going to be multi-usage to this. One is going to be commercial, which is for the rest of us, the commoners, and one is going to be strategic, which is for the government, perhaps for more discrete purposes. Is that the only utilization? What is the bandwidth we're talking about as far as utilization of NavIC is concerned?
Yeah, I think when you look at the commercial space itself, I think the market is huge. I think nowadays everyone depends on GPS. And as I was mentioning, I think when we look at critical infrastructure, even though it's a commercial operation, need of a, let us say, self-reliant navigation system was a must. I think with NavIC, it has been fulfilled. And as Krishna was saying, I think in case of military systems, it's a must to have our own navigation system because commercial systems are likely to be mimicked by some enemy. So it is very much required that we have military code being transmitted for our military systems. And this gives a very secure positioning to our defense personalities.
Okay.
Right. Well, another thing, Shweta, while we're discussing this, is also I wanted to remind viewers that the talk of NavIC essentially, you know, began with the launch of, interestingly, the iPhone 15.
That is
correct. Because the iPhone 15s, the latest version of iPhone, the latest generation of iPhones have arrived with NavIC, you know, as an option for you. So that's when the talk began, and then soon enough, you saw, you know, Rajiv Chandrasekhar, Minister of State for IT, also chipping in with talk of how it needs to be made compulsory, and then officially recently came the final confirmation that it will be made compulsory for all phones by December 2025, and before that by January 2025 for all 5G phones that are going to be manufactured. So interestingly, it's the launch of iPhones that began talk of NavIC, which has now taken us to another plane of understanding what having our own global positioning system is.
Absolutely.
But what is interesting is that we are now competing with US, Russia,
Japan,
the European Union, and Japan and China. So we have 5 competitors, and only Japan's GPS or Japan's global positioning system has lesser number of satellites as compared to us. Everybody else has more satellites don't they?
Absolutely, and that brings me to all the more important question, Murli. If it's not as accurate and it's not as widely popular as a GPS would be, does it make economic sense to compel smartphone makers to have NavIC pre-installed? Does this mean that the cost of smartphones is likely to go up? What is going to be the immediate repercussion of this? Is this going to be, the cost remains same? There is nothing to lose, nothing to gain, perhaps an Indian system at no added cost? Or does this mean the cost of making smartphones now go up?
Yeah, one thing that I want to address is no, NavIC will be as accurate as GPS. So I don't think there will be any degradation in the accuracy of NavIC when we have full constellation in place. The second question is, for historical reasons, we got, in the sense, ISRO got two frequency bands for operating NavIC, one at L5 frequency, another one at S frequency. See, traditionally, GPS uses L1 frequency, which is at 1.5 gigahertz. So most of the smartphones were built around this 1.5 gigahertz frequency. Now, if somebody has to change the frequency to 1.1, let us say, gigahertz, which is L5 frequency, they had to invest a little bit on hardware. So in a way, yes, it used to add a little bit of cost to the smartphone when they incorporated NavIC. But the good news is ISRO, the recent satellite that they are launching, it incorporates signal in L1 band, which is at 1.5 gigahertz, which is at the same frequency as GPS. So what is going to happen is, in future, when more and more number of ISRO satellites will have L1 frequency, they need not add any additional hardware in a smartphone to make it NavIC compatible. So there is no additional cost as far as NavIC is concerned when we go into future.
Right. Mr. Murali Krishna, also, correct me if I'm wrong, Qualcomm and MediaTek chips already have been coming with NavIC, with NavIC compatibility already, aren't they? So the transition should not be all that difficult.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, definitely. I think a lot of modem manufacturers will have, let us say, GPS incorporated in their modem. And the latest modems from many of these big players like Qualcomm and others have NavIC built in. So that way, I think the transition has already been made. And I assume that over the years, with L1 in NavIC satellites, I think it is much more smoother.
All right, much more smoother, perhaps even as competitive as GPS. Murli is saying once all satellites are going to be in place, there's not going to be any added cost to it, and it's going to be maybe more accurate than GPS. We'll have to wait and watch for that. Time will tell. But Murli, thanks so much for joining in. Thank you for sharing your insights, and all the very best. I see you have a huge contract to oblige at this point. All the very best for what's to come. We'll touch base once again.
And congratulations again.
Sure. Yeah, thanks. Thanks for having me. Yeah, bye.
All right, shifting focus now. A pilot failing an alcohol test is a cause of concern, but 33 failing the test in 6 months, that is colossal. And it reflects very poorly on the entire system. In the first half of this year, 33 pilots and 97 cabin crew members failed their compulsory alcohol test. These tests are conducted either before or after flights. This according to data from DGCA, the Directorate General of Civil Aviation. Now, in contrast, in the first half of 2022, the aviation regulator recorded 14 pilots and 54 cabin crew members being identified as intoxicated while on duty. This as per a report which has been filed by Business Standard. Now, as per DGCA rules, remember, pilots and cabin crew members undergo pre-flight breath analyzer tests. For